and this is your speech, and go over it and let me know. And he noticed that this particular item about the alien invasion had been removed.
The president responded with a handwritten demand scribbled on the memo.
And on the bottom, in Reagan's handwriting, Reagan says there's too much anti-Soviet stuff in here, I want to back away from this, and oh, by the way, could you put my fantasy back in, how the world would unite if faced with creatures from another planet? And he used the word creatures.
Clearly grasping the president's determination, Dawson rewrote the speech, and during the 42nd General Assembly of the United Nations on September 21st, 1987, Reagan said,
"Our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?"
UFO researchers insist that George Herbert Bush is the key to present-day UFO knowledge.
George Bush Sr., I think, is one of the key presidents when it comes to ufology. He's a very important president because he has always been believed by a lot of researchers to be a guy who knows what's going on. He was former CIA director under President Ford. He was vice president under Ronald Reagan for 8 years, would have gotten briefings on many issues, including UFOs.
However, little evidence can actually link President Bush to UFOs.
For example, when I wrote the Bush Library, I asked them about UFO documents. They said they only had one UFO document.
And there are no public documents linking George Bush Sr. to UFOs, but I think there's very little doubt in any researcher's mind that this man knew a lot about the topic.
As far as I know, an alien spacecraft did not crash in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947.
William Jefferson Clinton's presidential archives contain extensive records pertaining to UFOs, from Roswell to alleged close encounters. Perhaps President Clinton's most impressive comment regarding UFOs was delivered during a speech on November 30th, 1995.
When a presidential speech is written, it is not just something the guy makes up. This is something that will take days, weeks, months to put together. It will be vetted by everybody. Something that's in a presidential speech is there for a reason. So Bill Clinton is making up a peace speech in front of 80,000 people in Belfast, Northern Ireland. He stands up, and in this speech, he's talking about kids, and he reads a letter from Ryan. And he said, "Ryan, if you're out in the audience today, here's the answer to your question.
If the United States Air Force did recover alien bodies, they didn't tell me about it either, and I want to know, I want to know, I want to know."
This is the part that the press all over America played. The second part of the statement is what I believe is a challenge, a shot across the bow to the military. He said, "But if they did recover alien bodies, they didn't tell me about it either, and I want to know."
That's good. How are you? Good to see you, sir. If you're elected president, will you finally trust the people enough to tell them about UFOs, what the story is? Half the public believes that they are real. Would you finally tell us what the hell's going on?
Sure, I will.
Regarding the administration of George W. Bush, it's unclear how much this man knows about the topic of UFOs. There are many who argue that the Vice President, Dick Cheney, is the man on the spot here in relation to this matter.
On April 11, 2001, presidential UFO researcher Grant Cameron was able to query Vice President Dick Cheney on UFO disclosure.
He was on a radio talk show in Washington, D.C. on the Diana Rehm show, and I was the first caller up. I called in and I said to him, and my question was, "Mr. Cheney."
Since the statement made by George Bush last July, there's been a vicious rumor circulating in the UFO community that you've been read into the UFO program. So my question to you is, in any of your government jobs, have you ever been briefed on the subject of UFOs? And if you have, when was it and what were you told?
Well, if I had been briefed on that, I'm sure it was probably classified and I couldn't talk about it.
And it stunned me. It was significant because, first of all, he basically stated it would probably be classified and stated I wouldn't be talking about it, which means they're going to continue to keep it secret. And he basically acknowledged that, yes, he's in the loop, and yes, there is something to this. It's secret, and it's important.
The issue of government disclosure on UFOs as they relate to national security issues has long been debated.
There's always some idea that some office somewhere is accumulating all this data and all that, but again, you would have to know who's doing it. This gives a lot of ground to conspiracy theorists.
I think presidents all recognize that presidents come and go. They're short-lived when it comes to the Washington establishment. Intelligence agencies go on forever. So I think keeping the status quo about UFOs is the easiest way for all of them to behave.
It really is a situation where the people, ordinary people, have got to recognize that it's in their interest to have disclosure on UFOs, really for the survival of the system of government that we all grew up believing we had. A government of the people, by the people, for the people. And disclosure is a critical way in attaining that, because it is the opening up of a huge part of our history that has been denied to us for 60 years. That's a big deal.